Good morning everyone. Welcome to Crack Grade B. आवाज आ रही सबको? And is this screen clearly visible to all of you? Okay. So welcome to today's session. We'll be doing 21st February current affairs. Okay, and we'll be doing current affairs from all across the various sections, from ESI, finance, appointments, national, international news. So let's move on with the first news, which is about outward remittances data. In India, we always boast upon the data that we are the topmost country in terms of receiving remittances. This is all what we are famous for. But the data with respect to outward remittances is also increasing. That means a lot of money is going out from India to other foreign countries. Okay, that's what outward remittances is. It's not like there are some, money that is going and coming back. It's money flowing out of India. Okay, and if you see the December data, if you see on month basis, that is, if you compare from November to December, then you have seen 28% increase in outward remittances. Okay, and there are a lot of purposes because of which people do these outward remittances. For example, the most biggest contributor of outward remittances from India is the travel or international travel. When people go outside, they spend money, they spend Indian money, their hard-earned money in foreign countries. So that means rupee is getting converted into some foreign currency and then flowing out. This is what you call outward remittances. And this is the data with respect to that only. Okay. And within the data, if you see month-on-month basis, the increase is 28%, and if you see Y-on-Y basis, which is year-on-year basis, that means December 22 and comparing December 23 data, then you realize that 16% Y-on-Y basis outward remittances data is growing. So naturally, there is an increasing trend with respect to remittances flowing out of India to other foreign countries. So आप इसका एक rough idea बना के चलें, and if you have to mention about it in the descriptive paper, then you also have this data that is specially also related to RBI's liberalized remittance scheme. And what is liberalized remittance scheme? So under liberalized remittance scheme, RBI says that up to $250,000 you can freely remit money from India to foreign countries, and you can do it for any type of transaction, be it capital transaction or be it current account transaction. Okay? So this is what RBI's remittance scheme is. And with respect to the data that we've received, you can see the data show that travel constituted around 64% of the total outward remittances. So this is what you need to remember, because this can come as a one-liner question in phase 1 specifically. They can easily ask you which one of the following sector accounts for the most amount of outward remittances as per RBI's liberalized remittance scheme. ठीक है? तो RBI से related जो भी चीज है, do not ignore that. Next, another most important topic also mentioned in your RBI syllabus as well, World Trade Organization. History of World Trade Organization, as all of you already know. Okay? I've already asked all of you to at least see what happened in the previous WTO ministerial conference, because it gives you a very good context with respect to what will be happening in the present or this year's ministerial conference. So previous was the 12th ministerial conference, this is the 30th ministerial conference. Okay, So this will be happening in Abu Dhabi, UAE. This is the first thing you need to remember in context of phase 1. Okay, and then obviously we'll be talking about 3 things that will be the most probable or most prominent issue for the upcoming ministerial conference. The agreement upon which, obviously, especially if you're focusing upon 2 agreements, so all the countries could not agree upon those agreements in the previous ministerial conference. That's why I told you, if you see the previous ministerial conference, you will easily relate what will be happening in the current year's ministerial conference. So what are those 3 things? So there are 3 things, especially in the news, because obviously this is like a preparatory phase where all the countries are discussing amongst each other, and not amongst each other, with their media, that what issue that they will be focusing upon in this ministerial conference, what issue they will be prioritizing over, or what issue that they will be opposing in the upcoming ministerial conference. So if you see the Indian media and if you see the Indian government, reactions, or Indian government, what interview these bureaucrats have been giving, so you'll realize that there are 3 issues that the India has been prioritizing, and these 3 issues are: the first one is investment facilitation for development. So this is a plurilateral agreement. Now you will naturally be asking, what exactly is plurilateral agreements and how is it different from multilateral agreements? Does anyone know difference between plurilateral as well as multilateral? Any idea? Yes, no? See, this is very important because this is the basis of India's disagreement, especially with respect to this investment facilitation for development proposal. Chalo, I'll tell you. So multilateral agreement within the WTO's vicinity, it talks about all the agreements that is agreed by all the countries with consensus. Okay? All the member countries of WTO. So this is what we call multilateral agreements. But plurilateral agreements, obviously this is provided under section 4 of WTO Agreement Act. In that WTO section 4, it also provides for member countries to form plurilateral agreements, which is that although there are 164 member countries in WTO, if some 130 countries wants to form an agreement that only these countries follow and not other countries, this is what we call plurilateral agreements. That some countries amongst themselves, if they want to develop a trade agreements amongst each other, that they can form, and that is also the provision allowed under section 4 of the WTO agreement. Okay, so I hope this differentiation is clear to all of you. मल्टीलेटरल सारे मेंबर कंट्री के बीच में होगा, प्लूरिलेटरल अगर कुछ कंट्री आपस में करना चाहें तो फिर वैसा भी एग्रीमेंट अलाउड है. एनी कंफ्यूजन? चलो, so this investment facilitation for development is also a plurilateral agreement, and it is led by China. China has a very strategic global connectivity, proposal. And what is the name of that China's global connectivity project? Yes, Belt and Road Initiative. Very good. Okay. A Belt and Road Initiative which connects various countries across Asia as well as Europe. If you need to do, and if you develop this, you need to put money into developing countries to develop infrastructure related to this, isn't it? अब बहुत सारी countries हैं where China need to invest in order to make its BRI successful, and every country has different rules with respect to investments, how we can do investments, what department of what government we need to focus upon. Is it only the state government, central government, or do we need to directly talk with the Department of Infrastructure or Department of Finance? There are various different rules regarding different countries that China wants to develop infrastructure in. So China came up with this investment facilitation or development. अब इसमें क्या करेंगे ये लोग? They will make WTO agreements में होता क्या है? In any WTO agreement, you pick up any agreement. What happens is that it forms a basic, rules and regulation for conducting any aspect. For example, if you want to do trade in goods, you have this general agreement on trade and tariff. If you want to do services, then general agreement on trade and services. That provides you a base rules and regulation that every country needs to follow. It provides a standardization of rules and regulations. Then it makes easier for every other country to make trade amongst each other. That's why the WTO agreement is all about, है ना? वरना agreement का मतलब क्या है? आप सारे बैठ के मिल बैठ के एक चीज ही तो अग्री कर रहे हो कि हम ट्रेड के जो रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस बनाएंगे सारे मिलके बनाएंगे और सारे मिलके फॉलो करेंगे, because it makes cross-border transactions with respect to trade, goods and commodities easier. So similarly, here also in investment facilitation for development, China will also do the same thing with respect to these 130 countries that will be joining this investment facilitation for development. They will make basic rules and regulations with respect to investments, and that will streamline the flow of investment from China to all these countries without compliances and without cost, and obviously in an increasing manner. So I hope you get the context of what is happening over here. And obviously India has various reasons in order to oppose it, and not only India, US and all other countries, Western countries specifically, are opposing this. But obviously they cannot say कि we do not want BRI to succeed, so we are opposing it. So they are opposing this proposal by saying that this proposal or the plurilateral agreement goes against the multilateral principle of WTO. This is what the argument of India and other countries is. TRIMS multilateral हो गया, ठीक है? This will be more China centric. Okay, so this is infrastructure facilitation for development we've discussed. Next is National Fish Workers Forum. So National Fish Workers Forum is a, pressure group with respect to small fishermen. So this forum says to the government that please protect the interest of small fishermen by pushing WTO to keep small scale fishing out of fishery subsidies negotiations. And what is happening in fishery subsidies negotiations? The main aim is to regulate or eliminate harmful, illegal, unreported fishing, especially in overexploited zones. ठीक है? अब वो क्या रहा है? To stop this, because various governments are providing subsidies to fishermen and fishing industry so that they are able to do this. So this agreement is trying to eliminate these type of subsidies, but the Indian government and especially the developing countries are saying that such type of subsidies are essential in context of livelihood of small scale fishermen and also food security in general in India. Okay, so we need moratorium on application of this agreement, especially on developing countries. Okay, and because of which we have this provision of special and differential treatment. Okay, that we need different treatment and special treatment on account of these things. So this is in context of what the small scale fishermen are saying this. Okay. नहीं, it's not an exact number for plurilateral. Plurilateral तो कितने भी कर सकते हैं, 10 कर लो, 15 कर लो, 20 कर लो. ठीक है, 130 is, I have told 130 because 130 is normally the members under this investment facilitation for development. ठीक है. And next the most important issue is moratorium on custom duties on e-commerce digital transactions. अब इसमें क्या है, you know, this agreement or this decision was taken by WTO in 1999, way back when the internet or digital e-commerce industry was developing or it was in nascent stage. ठीक है, but more than 25 years have been passed and the developing countries are saying that 25 years have passed, ठीक है, and you haven't changed the moratorium. So we as a developing country are not able to tax the transactions done by foreign countries delivering services to our country and through e-commerce and digital transaction. For example, Amazon transaction from US to India, the government of India is not able to put custom duties on that type of services because of moratorium that they have agreed way back in 1999. So India and other developing countries are against this because they are losing out huge revenue in terms of taxation, and there is data also with respect to this, and the data says that every year developing countries are losing $10 billion annually. इतना लॉस हो रहा है, and this is based on 2017 data. अभी के डेटा देखेंगे तो naturally it will be much more than that. Okay, so is this clear to everyone, all these three issues? Any doubt? अब इसमें देखो, ये 3 इश्यूज को अपने दिमाग में रखना, ठीक है, बिकॉज दिस विल बी हैपनिंग फ्रॉम टुडे ऑनवर्ड्स टिल 29th February, and keep a tab on the news. WTO is very important for all the examinations that will be happening throughout this year, all examinations, कोई भी एग्जाम हो, ठीक है. तो WTO में जो भी डेवलपमेंट्स हो रहे हैं, please keep a tab on it. Okay, then in the news, obviously, I will explain, then you will be able to much better understand this. Let's move on to the next news, which is exchange traded funds turnover tops 1 trillion for second year on the National Stock Exchange. So what is exchange traded fund? What does a mutual fund do? Mutual fund collects money from different subscriber of the funds. ठीक है, and then there is fund manager. This fund manager is responsible for investing your money into stocks or other assets listed on stock exchange. ठीक है, यही फंक्शन होता है. But think about, if I say that there is a fund, ठीक है, the fund name is Nifty 50. That means it contains 50 companies that are listed on National Stock Exchange in the same proportion as they are listed in National Stock Exchange. ठीक है, एक ऐसा फंड बना दिया जिसके अंदर ये सारी कंपनीज आपके पास हैं, एंड दिस फंड हैज अ प्राइस एंड दिस फंड इज लिस्टेड ऑन द नेशनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज. यहां मैनेजर का कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है, ये फंड पूरा लिस्टेड है. नाउ व्हाट बेनिफिट इट प्रोवाइड्स यू? इंस्टेड ऑफ बाइंग एनी वन कंपनी in Nifty, for example HDFC Bank, if you just buy this ETF fund named Nifty 50, then you are naturally investing in all 50 companies of Nifty. तो basically आप index funding कर रहे हो. आप एक mutual fund that is offering you one index fund, instead of doing that, you just put money on this ETF, which is also like investing in all 50 companies. ठीक है, तो ये बेसिक डिफरेंस है बिटवीन द फंक्शनिंग ऑफ व्हाट इज ETF एंड व्हाट इज नॉर्मल म्यूचुअल फंड्स. एनी कंफ्यूजन टू एनीवन? So obviously what the news says is, because as all of you know that this fund, this ETF fund is listed on National Stock Exchange. When anything is listed on National Stock Exchange, that means you can buy and sell that. And buying and selling of these ETF that are listed on National Stock Exchange, if you calculate the value of all or sum of all transactions, all buying and selling transactions, then you get to this news which says that this sum has grown to $1 trillion. And what does this tell you? That means a lot more activity is going on with respect to ETF. A lot more people are buying ETF, है ना? तभी तो buying and selling के इतना बड़ा transaction आ रहा है. Otherwise आता ही नहीं. ठीक है? तो this is what the news is saying, that ETFs changing hands on the National Stock Exchange has surpassed 1 trillion in the first 9 months of financial year 24. And obviously it is in rupees, not dollars. ठीक है? Then the data with respect to how many ETFs are listed on the stock exchange, it has doubled from 87 in 20 to 190 in 24 till December. ठीक है? And then we have meanwhile total assets under management of ETF have touched 26.5 trillion so far. What does this mean? Asset under management, can anyone tell? Asset under management under mutual funds as well as ETF, what type? Board पर ही है. Can anybody specify what are we talking about when we say asset under management? एक single line में, if anyone can tell. Utilize pure logic, you will be able to answer this. नहीं, not market cap. अरे assets under management, ठीक है? मतलब for this mutual fund, this is the asset under management. ठीक है, इट इज द वैल्यू ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट्स दैट द फंड इज मैनेजिंग. ठीक है, Let's move on to the next news. Union Bank to raise 3,000 crores via qualified institutional placement. ठीक है, देखो हम लोग IPO के थ्रू करते हैं, where we provide shares to everyone, to public. अब public के अंदर कोई भी आ सकता है, institutional investor, corporate investor and all other investors. But if you go for qualified institutional placement, that means this Union Bank of India is specifically offering its equity to specific institutional investors. Ab institutional investors, can anyone give example of them? What are various examples of institutional investors? Yes, correct. Pension funds, mutual funds, LIC and all those. ठीक है, तो उनको UBI is actually offering shares and thus raising 3,000 crores from them. Next is outlook for Indian economy looks strong as the growth rate for financial year 25 is projected at 7%. The finance minister says, and also the RBI also recently in its RBI monetary policy committee meeting projected the same thing. Next is Paytm users may take up to 6 months to shift to other payment service providers. As all of you know, since the Paytm payment bank has been put under restrictions, a lot more customers and especially merchants are trying to shift to another payment transaction or payment aggregator or payment service provider. Okay, so in order to not shift their customers to another third party, the Paytm is also applying for third party application provider, because until or unless you have this license, you cannot utilize UPI services offered by NPCI, because this license is also provided to you by NPCI. Because as all of you know, अब Paytm के पास तो अपनी payment bank थी, so Paytm can do any transactions by utilizing Paytm payment bank as a partner bank, whereas PhonePe doesn't have its own bank, so it utilizes partner bank for offering various services. अगर आप normal ये third party application provider क्या होता है, ठीक है, think about, because this PhonePe also has this license, third party application provider. As all of you know, PhonePe also has a wallet, isn't it? आपको क्या लगता है PhonePe में जो wallet में आप पैसा आप डालते हो, who owns or who have this money or who holds this money? Anyone? Yes, bank owns this money, because PhonePe doesn't have any authority to hold your money, because your PhonePe is not a bank per se, it's only a third party that is enabling various type of transactions. Okay? So the amount that is there is stored with various partner banks. For instance, Yes Bank, ICICI and whoever the partner banks of PhonePe is. Okay? But Paytm didn't have to do this, because Paytm के पास तो अपनी bank है. But now that bank has been put under restrictions, so whatever services partner banks provided to third party is now not available with Paytm, तो Paytm wallet तो function करेंगे ही नहीं, ठीक है? So that's why Paytm is asking for this third party application provider license, so that Paytm can partner with other various partner banks to continuing their wallet services and other merchant services. So is this clear? This is what is happening and why Paytm is doing whatever it is doing. So that's why you see this news that Paytm doubled down on bank tie-up. That means they need partner banks because they also have a huge user base. Next is PayPal registers with Financial Intelligence Unit under anti-money laundering law. PayPal, as all of you know, it's the most sought out application to do cross-border transactions, especially if you're doing transactions from India to US with respect to any of the services. It acts as a payment gateway in between. So PayPal has also registered itself with Financial Intelligence Unit of Government of India. This Financial Intelligence Unit is obviously, it's like an intelligence unit related to all the financial transactions, especially the cross-border transactions, because in order to understand money laundering, in order to understand, sources of funds for organized crime, it is essential to trace all the financial transactions. Otherwise, you will not be able to check how the funds are being transferred. And PayPal, it's registered itself with this unit. So all the transactions that will be going from India to other countries will be shared with this Financial Intelligence Unit. Next is Morgan Stanley Capital International Emerging Market Small Cap Index. Okay, so it says that small cap stocks have boosted the emerging market small cap index as compared to the large index this year. Okay, so it's this Morgan Stanley Capital International, it's like a research company which provides various tools and instruments for various countries to assess risk and understand what type of market is going on and what type of market is moving, what type of debt market is moving. So similarly, they have various indices that tracks the performance of these companies across various countries. It's not like only one country is there. So we've also seen one news related to our bonds listed on MSCI international indices. So that also helps because it provides recognition of Indian bonds in these indices. So similarly, in small cap index, if you see, Indian companies have weightage of 27.82%. Okay, and Taiwanese companies 22.24%, South Korean firms with 12.4%. So as these companies grow, the index also grow. Next is private firms must get their act together of capex, as said by RBI paper. And this is in context of, if you clearly look at what the government has been saying in context of interim budget, especially when they were saying that government is trying to consolidate their investments on capital expenditure. Because as all of you know that if you see the trends of capital expenditure, previously it was more than 50%. Then next year it rose by 33%, and this year it only rose by 11.1%. So what does this tell you? That the amount of capital expenditure that the government is doing has been consistently moderating or reducing. Okay? So what does it do? Especially in context of liquidity in the market, even the government is pushing for private sector to put their money into infrastructure development. And this is what another paper of RBI is also saying, because as all of you know that there is a limited amount of liquidity in the economy. इतनी सी लिक्विडिटी है, अगर मान लीजिए इतना तो गवर्नमेंट ने बोरो कर लिया, तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर के पास इतना अमाउंट बचा हुआ है बोरो करने के लिए. अगर गवर्नमेंट और ज़्यादा बोरो करने लग जाती है तो प्राइवेट कॉर्पोरेट्स डू नॉट हैव मनी टू बोरो. सो व्हाट डज this phenomena is crowding out the private investments. But the government is saying that we are actually we will be doing less amount of borrowing this year. That means only few amount of government securities will be deployed. So what does this do? A huge amount of liquidity, cheap liquidity is available for private companies to borrow. so that they can do investments in infrastructure. Okay, this is what the government is pushing for. Next is another RBI paper rejects IMF research with respect to what the government debt will be. So there was this recent IMF paper that said that in the worst case scenario, especially up to financial year 28, the Indian government debt to GDP ratio will cross 100%. समझ रहे हो? तो मतलब जितना GDP है उतना government will be buying up debt. But the recent RBI paper refutes this claim. RBI paper says that if you see what the government has been doing in context of fiscal consolidation, that means reducing their fiscal deficit, maintaining their budget, and also reducing their expenditure. If you clearly look at the signs, if you look at this year's fiscal deficit, what is this year's fiscal deficit? इस बार revised fiscal deficit कितना था? Anyone? Financial year 22-23, yes, correct, 5.8%, whereas the target fiscal deficit was 5.9%. If you consider that, and if you consider the next year target, which is 5.1%, and consecutively next to next year target, which is 4.5%, and also the government direction with respect to that we are not doing capital expenditure in that scale, consistently reduction in capital expenditure, that means government will be less borrowing from the domestic economy and even also from the foreign liquidity market. So what does this tell you? That government is actually focusing upon fiscal consolidation. So this is, by taking this data into account, RBI paper says, if you see the debt to GDP ratio, it was 88% in financial year 21 because of COVID and extra spending. It came down to 81% in financial year 23, and it is projected to decline to 73.4% by 2030-31. This is what the recent RBI paper says. इसको रट लेना, ठीक है? National statistical details है, RBI ने दिया है, and IMF is also talking about it. So make sure you remember this data, put it somewhere in your notes or news notes copy. Okay? So this is all for ESI and finance. Now let's move on to national state news. So national state news is saying new tariff norms for green energy allows 14% equity return. Okay? What the government is saying, that tariffs will be set on green energy sources in such a manner that the investors will be receiving at least 14% on all energy projects. Okay, and in context of small hydro projects, investors will be receiving 14.5% return. Next is IREDA. It will be setting up a retail subsidiary for implementation of Pradhan Mantri Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. Okay. This is a little bit of IREDA static. It was established in 1987. Motto: Energy for Ever. Next is greenwashing. The government has recently formed draft norms for that. And it has asked various comments with respect to these draft norms. So greenwashing क्या होता है? Related with brainwashing involves manipulation. So similarly, greenwashing also involves manipulations. For example, think about the companies that says that our products is, environment friendly, when actually they are not. So this is what we call greenwashing. That means the companies are manipulating you in context of their products, which they say they are environment friendly, but in the backdrop they are not. So if you can read the definition, that it refers to false or misleading claims made by an organization about the positive impact that a company, product or services has on environment. Yes. Okay. So this is in context of environment. and obviously corporate. So the government has formed various rules with respect to that. It says that all green claims made by a person as well as organization must be supported by verifiable evidence. Okay, and this is obviously to prevent greenwashing, and these are the terms it has included within its domain, which is clean, green, eco-friendly, eco-consciousness, good for the planet, minimal impact, cruelty-free, carbon neutral, and similar assertions shall not be used without adequate qualifiers. Okay? And obviously they have asked for comments, but whenever these rules will be finalized, we'll again discuss it. Next is PM Modi inaugurates 4 institutions in Andhra Pradesh. First is IIT Tirupati, Indian Institute of Science and Education Research, Tirupati, IIIT Design and Manufacturing, Kurnool, and IIM Visakhapatnam. So what does this make? There are total 21 IIMs and 23 IITs in the country located in various cities. And there are only 3 cities which has IIMs and IITs together: Jammu, Indore and Mumbai. IIM Mumbai recently has been inaugurated. I guess NITI को change कर दिया है ना? Next is Maharashtra Assembly clears 10% Maratha quota. Okay, that means there will be 10% reservation for Marathas in education and government jobs. Okay, but there is also a specific provision with respect to that this 10% is within OBC's reservation. Basically OBC का reservation 27% है. इस 27% के अंदर ही 10% will be Maratha quota. There's nothing, above or exclusive 10% Maratha quota apart from all these. अब ये देखो, विंडफॉल टैक्स हम लोगों ने करंट अफेयर्स में कितनी बार किया है ना? बार बार विंडफॉल टैक्स आता है। जनमन में मैं आपसे कितनी बार बोल रहा था कि कर लो, बहुत लेटेस्ट स्कीम है। तो इफ यू कंसिस्टेंटली डू करंट अफेयर्स यू विल रियलाइज कि व्हाट इश्यूज आर रिपीटिंग, और उन्हीं इश्यूज को पकड़ के वो लोग क्वेश्चन बना देते है ना? इवन ग्रीन वॉशिंग भी हम लोगों ने कितनी बार पढ़ा है, इवन इन लेक्चर्स ऑल्सो। आई एम ग्लैड रॉय, बढ़िया, गुड। ऐसे ही हो जाएंगे फेज 1 करंट अफेयर्स में, दिक्कत आएगी नहीं, मैं बता रहा हूँ। आप बस इनको कंसिस्टेंटली करो, एंड होता क्या है ना, आप जो इश्यूज बार बार रिपीट हो रहे हैं तो यू ऑल्सो गेट टू रिवाइज दोज इश्यूज, अगर आप डेली कर रहे हो तो, है ना? तो ये होता है। चलो लेट्स मूव ऑन टू नेक्स्ट न्यूज। नेक्स्ट न्यूज इज अबाउट नेशनल सर्विकल कैंसर कंट्रोल स्कीम। ओके, दिस इज लॉन्च्ड or announced by Union Finance Minister during interim budget, which says that government will be providing vaccination against cervical cancer for girls aged 9 to 14. Okay, and the vaccine name is Ceravac. And the most important thing, you also remember the virus, human papilloma virus, and this is like if you remember the previous year budget which talked about sickle cell anemia mission, तो दिस इज इन कॉरोलरी टू दैट टाइप ऑफ मिशन। उस मिशन के बारे में भी बहुत क्वेश्चंस पूछे गए, इस मिशन के बारे में भी बहुत क्वेश्चन पूछे जाएंगे। ठीक है, इट्स अ वेरी बिग इशू। ऑल रिमेंबर द स्टैटिक इंफॉर्मेशन रिलेटेड टू वायरस, वैक्सीन, एज, ठीक है, एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स। This will help you in phase 1. Okay, and the cryotherapy is utilized, also known as cold therapy, to destroy the abnormal growth of cancer. Next is India to display relics of Lord Buddha in Thailand. So they will show the 4 relics of Lord Buddha that they have received while excavating from Pipravaha in Siddharth Nagar, UP, done by William Claxton Pepe. Okay. Next, for the first time, India is seeking $26 billion private investment in nuclear power sector. Okay? Because right now, as all of you know, that there is a lot more, presence of public sector in India's nuclear energy domain. Now, India is seeking private investments in nuclear energy sector. Why? Because India has huge targets that it has put with respect to Panchamrit, है ना? Panchamrit में target है 50% energy matrix to be done, to be non-fossil fuel, है ना? Or clean energy. So in order to do that, they need nuclear energy to grow, which is right now only 2% of India's energy matrix. और केवल गवर्नमेंट के फंड से तो होगा नहीं. They need private investments in India's nuclear energy sector. ठीक है? This will help India achieve this target. So what did the government do? It is in talks with at least 5 firms, including Department of Atomic Energy, Reliance Industries, Tata Power, Adani Power and Vedanta Limited to invest around 440 billion each. ठीक है? And currently, all the nuclear power plants are owned by state-run Nuclear Power Corporation of India. Okay, and this is a little bit data with respect to how many nuclear reactors we have and how many power plants we have. इन सारे plants की location याद कर लेना, especially states, because this will most probably be a static question in phase 1 और डेफिनेटली आ जाएगा. एक आध क्वेश्चन पूछ लेंगे क्योंकि क्रिटिकलिटी बहुत सारे न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर्स हैव बीन अचीविंग. नेक्स्ट इज फर्स्ट इलेक्ट्रिक ट्रेन इन जम्मू कश्मीर हैज बीन इनॉग्रेटेड बाय प्राइम मिनिस्टर फ्रॉम बनिहाल, खारी, सुम्बेर एंड संगलदान. India's longest transportation tunnel T50 lies in this portion. World's highest railway arc bridge over Chenab River is also a part of this segment. Okay? And this project was sanctioned in 94-95 with a budget of 37,000 crores. 26,000 crores have been put in up till March 22. And we are now seeing the fruits of all the investments. Next is Pradhan Mantri launches AIMS Jammu and other projects worth 32,000 crores. Okay, this AIMS Jammu has been inaugurated in Vijaypur, and various projects related to health, for example, Swasthya Suraksha Yojana has also been launched. Next is global initiative on digital health. So first of all, understand that within what organization's domain these initiative has been launched. So this has been launched by World Health Organization as well as India. Okay, in collaboration. Okay, this was launched in 23 during India's G20 presidency at G20 Health Ministerial meeting in Gandhinagar. Okay, and what's the purpose? Purpose is to help democratize digital health technologies, especially for countries of global south. Of digital health technologies, if I want to ask you examples, what can you give? Any example of digital health technology? यस करेक्ट, ठीक है, ये सब है कोविन प्लेटफॉर्म, ऑल दीज थिंग्स है ना. तो दीज आर डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ हेल्थ. इफ वी कैन democratize all these technologies to all countries of global south, this will naturally increase the capability of health department of all these countries to tackle various type of epidemic, pandemic or any type of these things. ठीक है, so this is the main aim of this global initiative of digital health launched by WHO as well as government of India. ठीक है, अब इंडिया की जिस चीज में स्पेशलाइजेशन या फिर महारत हासिल है, तो naturally they will be pushing that thing throughout the whole world, be it UPI, be it WHO initiative or be it digital health initiatives. ठीक है, तो उस हिसाब से आप लोग देखें. This is starting with respect to WHO. 48 में established, 194 members, HQ Geneva and current head Tedros. Next news about the ban on onion export will continue till 31st March 24. ठीक है, naturally this ban obviously is to contain inflation within the domestic economy. Most probably तो यही reason रहता है. Next is Japanese government has given a loan of about 12,800 crore rupees to government of India for 9 projects related to various sectors in India. ठीक है, तो इस पे एक बार लुक मार लेना. एटलीस्ट रिमेंबर दैट हाउ मच अमाउंट ऑफ लोन हैज बीन प्रोवाइडेड बाय गवर्नमेंट ऑफ जापान. ठीक है, एंड फॉर हाउ मेनी प्रोजेक्ट्स. बाकी एक बार देख लेना. फॉर स्टार्टअप इनोवेशन इन तेलंगाना, कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ चेन्नई पेरिफेरल रिंग रोड, सस्टेनेबल हॉर्टिकल्चर इन हरियाणा एंड अदर्स. Next is India's gamers play to win with homegrown AAA titles. ठीक है, तो just like GTA, ठीक है, just like GTA, Minecraft, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Indian mobile game developer Mayhem Studios have launched its game known as Underworld Gang Wars. ठीक है, इसको रेटिंग मिल गई AAA की, विच इज रेटिंग इक्विवेलेंट टू गेम्स लाइक दीज. ओके, next is 10 states, 2 UTs raise 28,000 crores at bond auction. So as all of you know that in order for states to raise money, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया क्या करती है? गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया तो या तो ट्रेजरी बिल्स निकालती है, ठीक है, या फिर डेटेड सिक्योरिटीज निकालती है. व्हाट डज स्टेट इशू? नहीं, वेज एंड मीन्स एडवांसेस तो शॉर्ट टर्म लिक्विडिटी मिसमैच के लिए होता है, एंड दिस इज ओनली फॉर गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एंड सम स्टेट ऑल्सो. यस अंजलि, करेक्ट. स्टेट डेवलपमेंट लोन्स, SDL. ठीक है, दीज आर ऑल्सो सिक्योरिटीज इशूड बाय RBI ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. ठीक है, तो थ्रू दिस various states and UTs have raised 28,000 crores. Next is India's LNG terminal plans in Iraq face visa and security hurdles. So obviously this news is a very dynamic, but at least take a clue that India is trying to develop liquefied natural gas terminal in Iraq, and the benefit it is for both countries. Iraq, for the benefit is that they will be receiving huge money with respect to their exports, and obviously for India it is trying to diversify its sources of imports. ठीक है, जिससे हमारी एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी बनी रहे. Next, government is thinking about setting up maritime development fund as per the various bureaucrats. The government is thinking that shipping sector needs development and especially the infrastructure development. So we need to develop a specialized dedicated fund, just like what we have done in context of agriculture, like agriculture infrastructure development fund. So ठीक है, तो उसी context में we need to have this maritime development fund, and it is in this context that the government is saying कि हम लोग सोच रहे हैं कि अगर ये develop कर देंगे तो this will help in development of shipping sector. And इस news को ध्यान में रखना, because when the next budget will come, especially after elections, you will get to see announcement of this maritime development fund in the next budget. Most probably होता ही है. If they are saying that they'll most probably be trying to launch and clearing out the basic details. Next is road ministry's scheme to end contractual disputes. So it is just like विवाद से विश्वास scheme, ठीक है, where if there are any dispute related to contract and payment that are related to NHAI or any agency of road ministry, the government has launched this scheme to settle these disputes amicably. ठीक है, पूरा पैसा ना देने के बजाय 85% तक सेटल कर लेंगे, या if there is any arbitral award तो वहां पर हम लोग 65% तक सेटल कर सकते हैं. Next is international news. International debut for China's first homegrown aircraft. So just like Boeing has these aircraft, Boeing, Airbus, similarly China's COMAC has this C919 aircraft. ठीक है, it is China's first indigenous aircraft. Next is India hosts third edition of Global Intelligence Chief Meet. Happened in Delhi. Discussed contemporary security challenges which have global ramifications. India's semiconductor mission, chip fabrication plant in India. Okay, so this first minister has confirmed that Tata Group and Israeli chip company Tower Semiconductor, they have applied to set up boundaries in the country. And Tata Group is understood to be partnering with Taiwan-based Union Microelectronics Corporation, or the Power Chip Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation. Because as all of you know that India recently have issued a scheme or chip incentive scheme that allows various companies to set up semiconductor plants in India. So you can see so far only US based Micron Technology has clearance for its proposal to set up a 2.75 plant in Gujarat. And this is a very old news. If you remember that Prime Minister went to United States, आप लोगों को याद होगा जब वहाँ पे वॉशिंगटन में गए थे, it is only then the Prime Minister signed an agreement with the US with respect to setting up of this semiconductor plant. ठीक है, तो ये तब का बना हुआ है, उसके बाद किसी को अप्रूवल मिलेगा, then we'll be able to realize it. Next, MOUs. Sun Pharma will be buying 16.33% stake in US Surgimatix for 3.05 million. Next is Tech Mahindra is also acquiring Philippines-based BPO firm for 5 million Australian dollars. Competition Commission of India allows Minda Corporation to acquire 8.7% in Precall company. Next news is India United Kingdom full-fledged free trade agreement. अभी कुछ हुआ नहीं है, ठीक है, but naturally this is one of the most important free trade agreements if we look upon in terms of कि कौन सा free trade agreement हम लोग को जल्दी देखने को मिल जाएगा. तो because elections are there in both the countries, so they want a trade relationship or trade agreement amongst each other. Or UK economy, as all of you know, has entered into technical recession, so it is important for UK also, but when the agreement will be finalized, we'll be able to deal with it. But just remember this, bilateral trade or merchandise trade between two countries is $20.36 billion. Next is Power Finance Corporation signs MOU with Goa government for blended climate finance. Blended climate finance क्या होता है कि डेवलपमेंट फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन हो गया और प्राइवेट फाइनेंस भी हो गया, ठीक है, दोनों मिलके किसी क्लाइमेट प्रोजेक्ट पर पैसा लगा रहे हैं इन गोवा, इज व्हाट वी कॉल ब्लेंडेड फाइनेंस, ठीक है. So blended finance facility is being set up by government of Goa in partnership with World Bank, Development Financial Institution or Multilateral Development Bank. ठीक है. This is a little bit of PFC's static. Established in 1986, HQ New Delhi. ठीक है, under Ministry of Power. Next, awards ranking appointment. Shashi Tharoor gets highest civilian award of France. Nokia appoints Tarun Chhabra as Indian head. Defense 12th Milan exercise. It's a multilateral naval exercise. That means 50 countries participated in this naval exercise. Then we have Indus X. So second edition of Indus X, which is India-US Defense Accelerator Ecosystem, which talks about innovation, or it like a partnership in innovation, especially in defense sector, which involves technology transfer also. ठीक है, तो इंडिया यूएस के बीच में इट्स लाइक अ टेक्नोलॉजी कोऑपरेशन. आपको पता है कि 2+2 होता है जिसमें सिक्योरिटी एंड फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर आर यूजुअली इन्वॉल्व, नहीं, एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर एंड डिफेंस मिनिस्टर आर देयर. So similar kind of setup, especially in the domain of defense innovation amongst both these countries. Next is Neuralink. As all of you know, it's one of the most important startup of Elon Musk. It is said that the first patient who has received Neuralink chip is able to control mouse cursor with its mind. मतलब आप जैसे बहुत सारे लोग आलसी होते हैं, ठीक है, बैठे बैठे सोचते हैं कि कर्सर मूव हो जाए, ऊपर अपने आप क्लिक हो जाए, ये चिप लगा लो, हो जाएगा. एटलीस्ट फॉर नाउ, जोक्स अपार्ट, देयर इज नो साइड इफेक्ट्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दिस चिप, ओके, एंड दिस इज द फर्स्ट अचीवमेंट वी हैव बीन एबल टू रिसीव थ्रू दिस. Next, sports news. The World Team Table Tennis Championship. Okay. So what's the striking news is that it is the first time that India will qualify for the team event of an Olympics since Beijing 2008 Olympics. Okay. And this year led by Manika Batra, Shrija Akula and Aika Mukherjee, they are able to move to the knockout stages. Next is 8-year-old boy of Indian origin. That means Ashwath Kaushik, although he is hailing from Singapore. Okay, he stunned Polish Grandmaster Jacek Stopa at 22nd, BS Open. Last, Andres Breme, the footballer from West Germany, who scored final goal in finals against Argentina, expired recently. Okay, so this is all for today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, otherwise we'll wind up this session. So Manvendra, this is, and there are various reasons why Japan is investing in so much in Pacific. देखो, countries obviously work on the basis of their national interest, ठीक है, and national interest is not narrow. It based on economic interest, security interests, political, geopolitical interests. India-Japan relationship, the more strong it gets, it is important for balance of power in the region of Asia, है ना? And the more investments, because since it's a loan na, so naturally it also like a investment for Japan. There are various reasons associated with it. It's not solely because of that they are focusing upon economics only. There are other reasons also. ठीक है? Anything else? Nothing? Chalo, thank you guys for joining. We'll meet in the next session. Till then, keep revising.